So I'll just give it a brief moment to have a few more people come in who are just in the waiting room, and we'll probably just give them about a minute and then we will get started. And also, please do feel free to say hi in the comments and let me know where you're tuning in from. It would be lovely to virtually travel together. This is like literally the only, I don't know if some of you have managed to travel in this time, but it's probably the only time we kind of get to be in another country just by virtue of engaging with people that are in other countries. Hey, Valerie from New York, what's up? Thank you so much for joining, Valerie. Alex is from France. Bonjour, Alex. Alexandra. Welcome, Alex. Alex is like, merci. I don't know that my French is good to be able to, you know, greet you fully in French. Hi, Hannah from London. Toyo, who's from Nigeria. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And to all the ladies that are on the call, happy International Women's Day for yesterday. Hi, Anna Catherine. She's tuning in from Switzerland. Astrid is here from Singapore. Jan is from Germany. Fantastic. It's so great to have you guys on the call. Okay, so I'm going to get started. We have about 40 minutes for my chat. So I'll just be, letting you guys know about, branding and how to build your own brand in this time. Hi, Hooden from Canada. So if you guys have chats, just, if you want to comment throughout, feel free to use the chat box. But if I'm saying something and you specifically have a question that you'd like to ask, please put that in the Q&A section. And then Anna, who's managing us behind the scenes, will then be able to see all the questions specifically in the Q&A section and address those at the end. And we have about 20 minutes at the end of our discussion today to address your questions. So I'm going to share my screen with you for our discussion today. And really, it's such an honor. So thank you so much to Anna and the team for inviting me to speak today. Branding as an entrepreneur, branding for me is one of those topics that's really near and dear to my heart, simply because I know what it means to need to be able to build your own business, because your ability to build your brand means your ability to be able to earn within your business. So for those of you who hadn't perhaps seen me on social media or haven't engaged with me before, somebody sent you a link and said, this is going to be great, join today, and you had no idea who's speaking. My name is Ntsiki Mkhize. And for those of you who are like, that's a bit of a tongue twister. So Ntsiki is said like how you say Nikki, but with the TS. So Nikki, Ntsiki. That is my name. So Ntsiki Mkhize, I'm based in South Africa. I'm the founder of a business called Mentor, which is a global mentorship network that is focused on supporting female social entrepreneurs. And I launched that last year while I was doing my master's in social innovation in Scotland. And really for me, it's, combining my passion of social entrepreneurship and really wanting to uplift women to have an impact in their communities and create a life and business that they're passionate about. I'm also a professional speaker. I'm a facilitator for the Enneagram on concepts around EQ, on small business and business skills as well. I'm a presenter as well as a podcast host. I published a book called My Hall of Mentors about 2 years ago, and I was also Miss South Africa's second princess for the year 2015. So if you want to, chat and connect on any of that stuff, please go over to my social media. I'm on all social media, but I live on Instagram. So if you want to reach me, please head over to the gram at Ntsiki_Mkhize. So let's talk about a brand, right? When we're talking about branding, it's important that you understand that you are the brand, right? Especially when you are the entrepreneur, when you are the person running the business. Yes, people care about the value that your business wants to add. People care about what your business is going to do. But what people care about most is the energy that you give off, right? So it's very important that you are mindful that you are the brand and you are the first thing that communicates what your business is about, right? And for those of you who are on here and perhaps you are transitioning your career from whatever it was before and you're wanting to build a side hustle, or you've been doing a side hustle for a while and you're wanting to make it your main focus, or if you're in the unfortunate position that you were unfortunately retrenched because of COVID and sort of the downturn in the economy, and you're kind of looking at, okay, how do I set up a business and how do I use my skills and my talents to do that? The first thing you got to think about is the fact that you are the brand, right? So think about, we're talking about this being a small world and really that you can travel anywhere in the world, right? Tricky right now because of COVID, but we can go anywhere in the world. So if you're wanting to come to me and say, hey, Ntsiki, you can live this fantastic life and you can go see 7 countries in 1 year and this is how you're going to do it, do you look like somebody I want to hear that from, right? So when I look at you, does your personal brand give me that feeling? Does that evoke that kind of inspiration in me, right? And whatever that inspiration is, you need to decide for yourself. So you need to decide what it is that you're wanting to communicate, and then align yourself to positioning yourself in a way that speaks to that particular brand. And I think that's very important, just from a space where sometimes people feel like, maybe you're being fake, or you're not wanting to dress up too much. Your personal brand doesn't mean it needs to be like polished and high end and affluent or whatever it is. If your vibe is around, festivals, and you want to, go to bohemian vibe stuff, that is your vibe. It doesn't have to be, whatever posh perspective that people normally think a polished brand is. Your brand is you and what is authentic to you. And very key to building a good brand is that you are authentic in everything that you do. I do want to, just put this here as a tool or resource that you guys can go watch. It's a TEDx by Taylor Waller. And when she speaks about the future of branding as personal, right? And I think we see that more and more now, that people want to buy things from people they know. So if you have a great vacation, if you have a great cup of coffee somewhere, if I look at the influencer marketing, just people, the ability to use something and tell a friend, and that kind of sparks off a whole trend. That is the future of things, right? I think society is going to move away a lot from what we see spokesperson kind of branding and marketing to more individualized branding and marketing. So if you're somebody who's like, my brand isn't big, I don't have a huge social following, that's fine. We're definitely going into the era of the micro influencer. So you got to think about, what is personal about your brand and how are you sharing that, and who are the people that are out there that want to hear that particular voice. And instead of feeling drowned out by all the voices that are in the market, just kind of go, there's a voice out there that's just like me, right? And they want to hear from me. And the example I would use here is around Marvel comic books, right? So I'm pretty sure before the Marvel movies came out, people who were avid comic readers were like finding each other at Comic-Con, and they were like a tribe, right? And the rest of the world was like, these people are weird. We have no idea what's going on. And then Marvel movies came out and we all got hooked, right? And I think more people who aren't even avid comic readers can tell you a lot about a Marvel movie, because we were all just drawn into this franchise. And that's really what I mean. Just because it's niche doesn't mean there isn't a market there. And I feel that if you have a really good market that you can speak to, it becomes a lot easier to tailor your voice and to tailor your particular brand once you've identified who it is that you're talking to, because it's personally who you are, right? It's your authentic brand. And that's then goes to the fact that when we talk about branding, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what they say when you're not around. And that's an important thing, right? And that's why I spoke about your brand being authentic to who you are as a person. Authenticity for me guarantees the fact that your brand isn't going to fail, right? You're never going to get caught slipping because somebody saw you somewhere not being on brand, right? If you're living your brand and your brand is who you are, it's easy for you to be authentic in that, because that's essentially who you are. But more important than that is that if you're constantly speaking to your voice and speaking to your truth, that audience gets built up from an authentic perspective. So you're not having to soft sell or hard sell people. People who are your tribe will be authentically drawn to you. And that's really what you want to create. So when you go back after this conversation, do an audit of your social media, do an audit of the pictures in your social media, and say to yourself, do these speak to the kind of brand that I want to portray? And do these attract the kind of people that I want to be attracted to my brand and to my business? And I know that can be very difficult, because part of social media is, for example, people who use Facebook, it's a very personal, family and friends type of thing, right? So the pictures on Facebook don't need to be polished. The pictures on Facebook don't need to be perfect. I was just hanging out with my friends this weekend and we had a barbecue and that was great, right? But when you go onto Instagram, for example, there's a tendency for pictures and images there to be more polished. So don't feel pressure about having to be perfect. Think about which platform you want to use. And I think the easiest way to identify your platform is just to think about, where would your audience be, right? So the people who are wanting to use the products that you're selling, or who want to utilize the services that you're providing, or the tribe that you want to build in your community, whether you want to start a membership community, whether you're wanting to start a specific focus group, whether you're wanting to sell a course, whatever it is that you want, think about the person who's most likely to buy the thing that you're wanting to sell. where is that person most likely sitting? And sometimes that person is sitting on a social media platform that isn't your favorite platform to use, right? And it's not about being present on absolutely every single platform. You just need to be present on the one where your customers are, see how that goes, get the feedback from that, and then you can build up from there. And I think part of that, it's really important that people do know you. You don't need everybody to know you, but you do need the people who are interested in your business to know you. And that's a tricky one because, you're casting the net wide, and in that wide casting, you'll find your tribe. But then also there's targeted posting that you can do, and there's fantastic algorithms built into Facebook and into Instagram that can sort of get you out into your audience, just for people to start seeing you. And if your brand attracts them and speaks to them, then people will gravitate to you. So I want to ask you, what are people saying about you? So if you find yourself in a place where you're not really sure what your brand is, you think it's something else, maybe other people aren't sure, just do a quick survey. Ask a couple of friends that you trust, ask a couple of colleagues, ask a couple of family members, and ask them, what are the 3 top words that come to mind when you think about me? And just get them to send those words to you and see what is the feedback that you're getting that you agree with, and what is some of the feedback that you're getting that you're like, actually, no, that's not me. That's not my intention in behaving in that particular way, and see how you can then adjust those particular things. And then it'll also be surprising to see what feedback you get on the words that people give you that you didn't identify with, like that you didn't know that people actually see you and think that about you. And there's sometimes really good gems in there that you can then use to build towards creating your specific unique brand. And then also, if you're not a brand, you're a commodity, right? And I put this quote in here because you're either consuming or creating, right? You're either selling or being sold to. And you're wanting to sort of position yourself in a space where you're the trusted voice in your community. And for me, that makes a big difference in how your audience engages with you, right? And it's not about being the jack of all trades, but really being an expert in what it is that you're wanting to do. So for example, if you are wanting to get more people to know about the best pastry shops in France. And I mentioned that because I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Paris last year. And I was like, there are so many bakeries, right? And they were so good, right? You don't have to know about every single kind of bakery in the world, just some really good coffee shops with really great pastry in France that nobody else would go to visit. And you make a list of that and you become the go-to person when people want to go to that particular area. And that ability to niche allows you to move from a space where you're a commodity to a space where you're a brand, and people are engaging with you because they trust you and you've become a thought leader in your space. So think about the information that you know, whether it's from what did you study at school, or the different jobs that you've worked, or the different spaces that you've been exposed to. There's a topic that you know about better than anybody else. And if you just hone in on that topic and you start writing down, what do I know? And it might not seem special to you, because if you know something, we tend to have the habit of thinking like, this is common knowledge, everybody knows this. And that's not the case, right? You know a lot of gems that could easily create a course, that could easily create a free downloadable toolkit on how to do something, the ultimate travel guide for this particular area, or even the ultimate travel guide for a type of person. So for example, I am not a person to camp. Camping is not my thing, okay? I need a running toilet and I need electricity. That's it. That's just me. But I had a friend of mine recently launch me into going camping, because they gave me a whole different kind of pitch on how to camp like a glam person, right? And they sold me on the Land Rover and how much fun it is, and pitching a tent at the top of the car instead of the ground. And therefore, you don't have to worry about snakes and things like that. And I was really brought in, right? So there's some things that that exist for a market that doesn't have that same information. And you're treating that information as mundane. But for a person who's never heard of it, it's gold. And that's a business that you can build as well. There's a market and there's a community out there that's interested in knowing that content from you. It's like when you look at things on social media that are specifically dedicated to like dogs or like doggy collars, it doesn't seem like a lot, but for that market, it really is a big thing. And so when we're talking about, what does the world look like post-COVID? Where are we at? Where are we going? The average millennial will have 10 to 50 jobs in their lifetime. And that's such a good point to know, because we're all about creating a portfolio life, right? And a portfolio life is one where, yes, you have studied whatever you have these particular vocational skills, but your life is more structured whereby during the day you're doing one thing and in the evening you're doing something else. So during the week you're doing one thing and over the weekends you're doing something else. Or you could find that multiple days within the week are dedicated to doing different tasks, right? So as a freelancer, you could freelance your skills to different organizations and you're part of different projects and different teams, but working for yourself. So really thinking about, over the next couple of years, how do you see yourself moving around? Where would you like to see yourself moving around? And once you're clear about where it is that you'd like to go, so are you building your brand and your career around being a YouTuber? Are you building around being a micro influencer? Are you building it around being a consultant that can speak about a specific audience or speak to a specific topic? Be clear on that, because once you're clear about the spaces that you want to move into and how it is you want to design your portfolio life, you're then able to decide how it is you should go about building your brand, right? So ask yourself these questions. How will you move around in the next couple of years and why, right? So are you going to pick up and move to another country? If so, why are you doing that? Especially when I think this platform of doing virtual conferences is going to become the norm. So if you do choose to pick up and go, where are you going and why are you going there? And once you're there, what are you going to be doing, right? And how will you show up in those particular spaces and own those particular spaces? So in your decision to move to this particular space, what is going to make you different in that space? How are you going to be dynamic in that space? So for example, while I was doing my master's in Scotland, I was living in Glasgow and I attended a speakers conference there, because I'm part of the Professional Speakers Association in South Africa, and they have a chapter in the UK as well. So I went to the chapter branch in Glasgow, and I had a conversation with one of the coaches there, and I was like, I'm not really sure about what to do while I'm here. And he was like, you have a completely different story, right? You're from South Africa and you have a whole completely different cultural context and you have a whole completely different perspective of the world. And that's such a fresh thing to bring into a market where everyone's talking about the same thing. So really think about how what you know, where you've been, what you've been through creates that competitive edge and sets you apart to different audiences, right? And then also for the spaces that you're going, what will your reputation be? So what do you want people to say about you? Do you want people to refer to you as the expert, as the thought leader? Are you that go-to person for anything people need to know? What do you want that reputation to be? And in terms of all of that, what then keeps you top of mind, right? So when people are sort of going through their social media or speaking to people, what are the needs? What are the wants? What are the pain points that people kind of come across often? And they go, oh, you know what? I should actually call Ntsiki on this one because they would know what to do, right? So think about these things for yourself. And if you can answer these questions, it doesn't have to be 100% correct. And these questions are definitely very fluid, right? So you could change these questions 6 months from now. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with travel restrictions, whether all the countries in the world are going to open up. I mean, we have no clarity on exactly what happens next. But this could change in 6 months. This could change by the end of the year. But if you start working on it, at least you have some idea of the direction that you want to go in. And based on these things, if you can see where you are over your lifetime, what you'd like to be doing, the kinds of spaces you'd like to play in, you can then reverse engineer and be like, okay, for me at this age in 2021, to get to there by the end of the year, these are the kinds of things that I need to be doing. These are the kinds of spaces I want to start moving in. So for example, if you want to be a makeup influencer, right? And let me be more specific and say a vegan, environmentally conscious makeup influencer, or if you want to be a slow fashion influencer, do people in those spaces know you? And when I say people in those spaces, I'm not talking about high-end executives. I just mean people who are buyers and sellers in that space, people who are consumers of that content, people who have blogs and really cool Instagram pages about those things. And if not, how can you start being known by those people? And it's as simple as, following somebody's page and reaching out to do an IG live together, or some kind of collaboration. And those are the ways that you start playing in those spaces. So when you're thinking about your brand, these are just a few things to think about that make up your brand, right? So think about your brand image, and that is like the visual, it's the colors, it's the picture, it's the instant association. When I see that, when I see this shade of red, when I see this kind of font, I specifically know it's that brand, right? And then there's those softer things, right? What is the mission of your brand? Okay, great. You've got this fantastic brand, but what does it stand for? What does this brand intend to do? What does this brand intend to accomplish? And then what are your values as well? And values is a big one because when we think about our new generations, our next generations, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but more and more people care about value. More and more people care about human rights. More and more people will stop supporting a brand because they're greenwashing, because they are not being environmentally conscious, right? Those things are very important to our generation as millennials and definitely amongst Gen Zs, right? So what are your values? Because you could build a whole community of people who gravitate towards you just because you guys all share the same kind of values, right? And with all of that in mind, then what is your vision, right? So you've got this great brand, you've got this fantastic mission, you've got these clear values that people can associate with. So where are we going, right? What's the vision? What's the big picture vision? Where do we see ourselves in the next 5, 10 years? And again, this doesn't have to be accurate, right? Something drastic could happen to you at the end of the year and the vision completely changes. And that's perfectly fine. But I'm a big believer that life happens while you're in motion, right? So pick a point, pick a target, and start working towards that target. And if that's where you're meant to go, resources will come along the way to help you get there. And if life has a different plan for you, I think that the journey of doing that, you'll end up where you need to go, right? So the vision doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be clear. And we're working towards that, and we'll figure it out as we go. And then just things to be conscious about as you're building your brand, right, and putting together your brand formula is that you've got to be consistent, right? And that's a big thing, especially when you're starting, because none of us is going to wake up tomorrow morning and have 100,000 followers, right? And I think one of the biggest disservices that pop culture has done for our generation is that we've had so many people who've kind of popped up and gone viral and become famous overnight, right? And sure, that's great because they have millions of followers overnight, but a lot of the people who've popped up and gone viral, personally, I know what they went viral for. I have no idea who they are or what they do, right? There's few of them who are sort of consistent in something that I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I'd hire this person for or pay this person for. So really think about, what is your consistency, firstly, in terms of your brand, right? So you've said that this is the feeling that you want for your brand. So you got to be consistent about representing that. But then you also got to be consistent about the amount of time that you're going to go through to represent that, right? So just because you put together a social media posting schedule and you start posting tomorrow and you've been consistently posting for a week doesn't mean that's instantly going to translate into followers, right? Building your tribe is going to take time. And how you actually build a tribe is by that consistency. A lot of the brands that didn't go viral but have a really strong following are just people who've been consistent. If you look at them and when they started posting, they've always been consistent. And even if their content was like not high quality in the beginning, that's perfectly fine, but they were putting something out there and people knew that if I keep going back to this page, there's this kind of content that I'm going to find, and there's always content, right? So if you think about pages, like I know I follow a lot of pages on Instagram and they haven't posted like all of 2021. I don't even know when the last time they posted was, right? So let there be a level of consistency in the work that you do. And then also be visible, right? And you don't have to be visible anywhere, but be visible in the spaces that you want people to engage with you. So think about partner networks that you can collaborate with. Think about partner organizations who are doing similar work and how you can become visible in those spaces. Because if you can be visible to those particular organizations, you're then automatically visible to their following and their tribe as well. And if you guys all share the same values, it's a lot easier for you to tap into that network because you become a friend of the tribe. And then definitely be original, be unique, right? Like be dynamic in who you are. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think the trend is that sometimes we see something and that looks like it's gaining popularity, and because we want to get the popularity as well, people tend to kind of want to fit themselves into that box. And I love because I had a conversation with a friend of mine who recently started using Instagram, and he was on the explore page and he was like, why do all the girls like have the same poses and like look the same with so much makeup? And we had this long conversation because I was trying to explain what was going on, and he was like, no, like this is weird, like why does everyone look the same? But all those pages do have followers. Most definitely they do have followers, but I wonder how many of those pages actually stand out, right? So just because a page has a lot of followers doesn't mean it's translating into valuable things that stand out. So don't be afraid to be original. Don't be afraid to be unique. And don't be afraid to clearly define your brand for you and who you are and what you're wanting to bring into the world and to be authentic in that particular space. So when you put together your brand, think about for you, what are your talents? What are your skills? What expertise do you have, right? And then put that together with your vision and think about where's the market demand? Where are the gaps? Where are the pain points? What is the thing in the market that currently doesn't exist that people are wanting assistance in, right? And then how can you position yourself in that space? And once you've figured that out, put together clear communication, right? You're here. I need to know that you're here. I need to know what you're doing here. I need to know how you're going to help me. So be clear in your communication. And for me, those particular things combined give you brand success, right? So I had a bit of difficulty with this when I was setting up Mentor because there's a lot of stuff out there on mentorship. There's a lot of stuff out there for startups, for entrepreneurs. There's, different levels of kinds of entrepreneurs. There was a whole segmenting around, which entrepreneur do you want to speak to? And it was a really big thing for me to say, from this pool that exists, I'm going to zone in just on social entrepreneurs. Like I know there's all these levels of entrepreneurs, but I'm just speaking to social entrepreneurs. And from this group of social entrepreneurs, I'm just speaking to the social entrepreneurs that are at idea stage and seed stage. Like, yes, I could speak to entrepreneurs that are growing, but that's not where I want to play. What I'm really interested in is speaking to the people that are at ideation and seed stage. And from that group, I just want to speak to people that are women in those spaces trying to make a difference, right? And that was a big niching, like that cut out a heck of a lot of the market. But what that also allowed me to do is to build a very clear, very unique, and very authentic brand where I can say we provide mentorship, a global mentorship network specifically for female social entrepreneurs, right? But just by doing that, it cut out all the noise of people who are looking for networks, of people who are looking for mentorship, for people who are looking for entrepreneurship support. And they've gone, oh yeah, this is me. This is what I identify with. Therefore, that brand, Mentor, that goes with me. So in cutting out the noise, yes, there's a nervousness about cutting out the market. And what if you're losing sales? And what if you're missing people? And that's okay. Your brand doesn't have to be for everybody. There is a sphere in which your brand and the product or service that you're offering to the world exists. And there are people that are called to that particular sphere. And when you guys vibe together, it's going to be a really great tribe, right? So I'll leave this up on the screen for a little bit longer and you can just, take these down, but really give some thought to it and make a list of, your talents, your skills, your expertise, and think about how you could use those particular things to serve a gap in the market and where your vision for that gap and how you're going to serve it is going to be in the next couple of years, how you're going to position yourself and create clear communication to let the people know that you're there, to work with them, and to make a difference. And then thinking also about how your personal brand is perceived, right? How you look, how you speak, how you act, that's all your personal brand. And I'm not talking about being chiseled to perfection and being fake or whatever. But in this age where authenticity is such a big thing, is that don't build a brand outside of you that you don't identify with, right? Because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to wake up every day and enjoy what you do because you are what pays your bills, right? So you definitely want to build something that you're still going to enjoy building when there's no customers, and you're still going to enjoy doing it when you finally have customers, and then your customers become a pain because, the customer is always right. So once you're on the other side as the business owner, you have to live up to that as well. And the kind of business that, like, when you're really grinding hard and no one else is there, you're still going to enjoy doing it, right? And I think the only way you can achieve that is by doing something that is authentic to you. But then also when I'm talking about then is like going back and looking at your social media, right? Then it doesn't need to be a pressure to create separate pages for yourself and for your business, unless your business is completely separate to you. So if you are, so for example, I'm a professional speaker, so I don't have a separate page for my speaking. I am the speaker. So if you want to know the topics and things that I speak about, you'll find that on my page, right? That information is available on my page. And Mentor is a business that I've created that's outside of me, but the passion around Mentor is just a part of who I am. I care about entrepreneurship. I care about purpose. I care about supporting women. So it's very easy for me to run Mentor and enjoy running it as a business, but it has its own page because it has a unique following, right? It has people who follow it because they care about social entrepreneurship. Whereas my audience is, yes, there's people in my audience who care about social entrepreneurship, but there's people who follow me who care about a bunch of other things that I'm involved in as well, right? So really think about your brand in that way. If you are the business, right? So if you are the coach, if you are the personal trainer, if you are the whatever service that's helping people, it's perfectly fine to keep your own page and build in more of that. Speak about it, let people know that you're doing it, get testimonials, talk about how you've helped people, share the impact and the wonderful work that you're doing. Also, just take people on a process with you, right? Show people like the admin of trying to be a world-class traveler, seeking to a specific niche. Share that with people. People enjoy that content. But if you, on the other hand, for example, are creating a clothing range, right? You can have your own page for your clothing range. You can speak to it on your own page, but you can also curate your own specific community that sits on your clothing page. Because maybe, yes, there's specific content that you want to speak about around your clothing page. So, for example, you care about making clothes specifically from hemp, but not everything in your life is about hemp, right? So you just have your clothing page, and it speaks to why it's important to have sustainable clothing, why you're using hemp to make those clothes, and that happens on your business page. And then on your personal page, every now and again, you're definitely talking about your business, but you're talking about your business from a passion point, whereas your business page then becomes the expert in that particular topic. And then finally, I'd like to speak to the art of storytelling, right? I mean, the art of storytelling is a big one for me, because I don't know how you guys feel, but I hate being sold to, right? As a matter of principle, I really just don't accept people that I feel like are trying to market to me on social media. I'm like, I'm having fun here. This is my personal space. I'm just here to like socialize and just like see how people are living their best lives. Don't try to sell to me here, right? And again, I think authenticity produces an authentic story, right? And there's an art to telling a story, and you're wanting to tell your story. Now, oftentimes when working with entrepreneurs, people kind of feel bad or feel ashamed to speak about the good stuff that they're doing or how amazing their business is, right? And I'm not talking about being full of yourself or being pompous or anything like that. But if you're doing good work, you're doing good work. Don't be afraid to tell people that you're doing good work. And what I like to do when we talk about the art of storytelling is be able to tell a story around impact, right? We're all people. There are things that are personal to us, right? And there's a big difference between somebody trying to sell me something because here's a product, I'm selling it, versus somebody who can link that product to something personal, right? A story that makes me go, oh yeah, I totally get that. Like that resonates with me, right? So think about how can you tell your story in a way that resonates with your audience such that they want to know more about your business. They want to know more about your products. They want to know more about the services that you provide. And oftentimes that's not something you need to fish for. If you're doing the work and there's a fantastic story, there's a fantastic, authentic customer experience that happens, there's somebody whose life you've impacted, even in a small way, right? There's a nugget in there that you can use to then start telling your story, right? And storytelling is also important because I think for a generation of people that doesn't want to be marketed to aggressively, it's really nice to have gentle stories that speak to your business, that speak to what you're doing, that speak to the value that you're creating in a way that makes people go, oh, I want to know more, instead of people going, okay, great sales pitch, like I'm done, right? So think about how you can start telling your stories, and then definitely practice on friends and family. Ask them, if I tell you the story, what does it inspire in you? What did the story make you think about? And I think the more you practice of this, it then becomes easier for you then to tell stories. And again, also when you're telling stories, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So if you literally just grab your cell phone and you go and you have like, we call them vox pops, right? You randomly stop someone on the street and ask them a question, or you do a survey. I don't know if you guys, I don't know his name, but I've come across the account where this guy has built an entire following around supercars because he goes to people that drive supercars and he's like, hey, what do you do and why did you buy this car or whatever, right? And that's very authentic. It's like he genuinely wants to know, like, how can you afford a supercar? Like, tell me more about it, right? And that's created an audience for him. So and those videos aren't perfect. Like they're not like, sometimes his hand is shaking, or sometimes he's running in the street yelling at the person driving the car going, what do you do for a living, right? But that's authentic, right? That's a real story. So think about what it is that you're doing. Where are you traveling? Who are you meeting when you're traveling? Who are you engaging with on your travels? And even think about making awkward moments less awkward, right? So I always find like that moment between being at the airport and going to your gate, and we all know we're on the same plane, but no one's talking to each other and it feels a little bit awkward, right? If you can find like cool, quirky things to be like, why is this always awkward and how do we break the silence around this? Like, those are fun things to do, right? So there's many things that you can play around with. And I find actually sometimes marketing that speaks to those awkward tension points that people kind of laugh at and go, yeah, that's true, actually. Why do we all stand in the lift and say nothing? That gets people's attention. So it's really nothing you have to dig for. You can just kind of look at what people are doing and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna challenge this and try to do this a little different and see what you come up with in that space. And then also just remember your brand is social. I know some people don't like to be on social media. Just be findable, right? You don't have to be findable and searchable everywhere, but the one platform that you do choose to engage on, do your best on that platform. And I don't think you can have an ad hoc approach to social media. You definitely need to be setting aside a day a week, 10 minutes every day, whatever it is. Just take the time and be specific and say, you know what, this week, and don't feel the pressure to go and create content. If you struggle with that, you can easily just go and find really nice quotes or really great pictures to share that speak to your brand, right? And you can just start building your business through free stock media of lovely images that people want to see that are associated with the brand that you're trying to build, and with quotes that are relevant as well. And you put that through, and whatever the social media platform that you choose is, make sure that your voice on that platform is clear and that you're doing the best that you can to build your brand on that platform, and that you're connecting with other brands that are linked to your brand or who have the kind of audience that is that you would like to have following your brand. And just make it a point to engage, right? Make it a point to engage with the few people that follow you, like, comment, respond to people that send you messages, and make it an effort to maybe do something once a month or once a week that people can look forward to it and say, oh yeah, this page always does this on this particular day, and invite people to do those things with you so that people are coming back. And for me personally, what I also find is I feel like social media is a substitute for a website. I oftentimes check somebody's Instagram before I check their website. So if I want to buy a particular piece of clothing, if I want to visit a particular place, I definitely check what's on their Instagram page first. I go to the Instagram, I'm like, let me see what these people are about. Let me see what the hashtags are for this particular thing. And then if I'm still interested, then I will go to that person's social media. So really don't underestimate the value of being found across social media and the amount of conversions you can have from people who are just passing through and who came across your page and decided to start following you and engaging. This is not a big chat around social media, but there's a video you can search for that's called the 10 Laws of Social Media Marketing, and just have a look through that. It's I think it's about 5 minutes, but there's really cool, quirky content on there, and just 10 key things to remember when you're marketing and building your business on social media. And I think it's also just easy to remember 10 little things instead of feeling like you're needing to be an expert that can build 1 million followers overnight, because really no one is expecting that of you. And then finally, in everything that you do, just make your mark, right? I don't know how many of you guys know the brand. They are a band, and I think they're called Hey You. I'm not sure. But one of the initial singles that they released, I forget the name of the song, but it's that music video where the guys are like dancing on the treadmill, and the entire video is them doing stuff on the treadmill, right? And I recently saw another video that they did, and this particular video was they slowed down 40 seconds. So they shot a couple of stuff that only took 40 seconds to shoot, but then they slowed all of that stuff down into, I think, like a 3-minute piece song, right? And their brand is very quirky, right? And I had no idea who they were, and now I'm aware of them just because I'm like, oh yeah, I like their style of quirkiness. It's pretty cool. So whatever it is that you're doing, whoever it is that you're speaking to, whichever platform you're speaking to those people on, make your mark and make sure that that mark speaks to who you are, make sure that it is authentic, and make sure that you're having fun with it, right? Because if we're waking up every day to be entrepreneurs running our own businesses, man, it better be fun to do it, right? So I wish you all the best in building your own brand. If you have like any questions, or if you want a little bit of support or a bit more detail, this was a very high level aspect thing that I was chatting to, you're most welcome to just DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to have more conversations around building your personal brand with you, but really just take ownership over your brand and be deliberate about how you show up. And if how you're wanting to show up and the feedback that you're getting are not matching, figure out where the disconnect is and then work towards, bridging that particular gap and being clear about it. So that's the end of my talk. I do want to let you guys know that in celebration of International Women's Day yesterday, Men's Her launched its first official Men's Her magazine, and it's going to be a quarterly edition. And the title, the theme that we launched with is called Launch and Challenge, because we wanted to inspire people to finally launch that idea, that business, whatever it is that they've been thinking about, just finally do it. This is the year to do it. This is the time to do it. And even from behind your computer or just with your phone, you can definitely do it, right? And the second part was to challenge, right? That in the process of launching, challenge the status quo, challenge the possibilities. You might come from a community or a family that doesn't think you can do the things you want to do. Challenge it, challenge what's possible for you, challenge your own beliefs and the limitation of your own thinking, where you've sort of gone, I don't know if I could do that, right? You totally can do it. So we encourage you to launch and to challenge and to really create a life and a business that matters, that you care about and that you are passionate about, and to really live life on purpose. So if you want to get a copy of the magazine, you can head over to our website at www.mensher.co.za, but I'll also be sending the link out to Anna, and she can share it with the community, just as a thank you from me, to say thank you guys so much for taking the time out this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are, to join and really using this opportunity in this moment to invest in yourself. It's definitely not going to go to waste. And from our discussion today, I challenge you just to take one thing and go implement it. The one thing I would choose for you is putting together your success formula and figuring out what are all the different moving pieces of your puzzle. But even if all you do is just audit your social media or think about who your audience is and come up with very clear, specific words to describe your audience, that's a great move going forward. And I hope that you see results from your effort in moving towards building your brand. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand it back over to Anna. Okay, I'm not sure if Anna can hear us. I'm going to stop share.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. It was a very interesting conversation, and I hope that our members enjoyed it. And yes, the recording is going to be available on our website tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. And I just want to check, are there any questions? Is there something? I know we have about a few minutes left. I don't know if anybody wants to ask something. But if you think about something later on that you wanted to ask that you perhaps maybe forgot about right now, please do feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. Let's do that. Okay, so Jane wants to know, how would you go about doing a survey on your brand, right? So Jane, really just, if you already have a business that's out there, you can ask people that are currently your customers. But if you don't have a business out there and you're trying to figure out where to go, definitely ask your friends, definitely ask your family, and then ask colleagues, even if it's just like associates, just say, hey, we speak however often, but I was just curious to know, when you think about me and my brand, like what are some of the words that come to you? And just, maybe just like ask them to share 3 words that come to mind. And if you hang out in certain spaces, so people who are friends of friends, ask them, hey, just quickly wanted to know, when you think about me, like what are like 3 words that come to mind, right? So literally like anybody who knows you, and I would definitely have a split between people who know you really well and people who don't know you so well, so that you can see when people meet you for the first time, for example, like what is their instinctive response? How do they feel about you the first time they meet you, right? And this could also just be like people who are friends of friends that you only do games night with, like every now and again. So like, hey, I know we don't know each other that well, but I just wanted to find out, when you think about me, what are the words that come to mind? And it's really nice to have that mix, because then you can kind of see what is the initial impression that you're giving, and you can also kind of measure how that differs to what people who know you well, like your friends or your family, have to say about you. Philip wants to know, Okay, to elaborate on the split between brand and personal marketing, right? So brand is like what it is, who you are, right? So this is our brand. It's connectivity. You can't see the top, but it's inspire, connect, and empower. It's a mentor. It's the colors. It is social entrepreneurship. That is the brand, right? But the marketing aspect is the going out and then trying to engage. So brand is what it is. Marketing is the doing. It's the going out and saying, engage with us because, connect with us because. So your personal brand is, like I can say, for example, my personal brand for like people who know me, I'm wearing a dress at the moment, you can't see it, but it's a very loose flowing dress. And this is my vibe, right? And if I'm not in a loose flowing dress like this one, I'm probably in a dress that has like buttons all the way down. And that's just like what I like, very chilled vibe, minimal makeup. That's my brand, right? I have an afro. I have braids at the moment, but I have an afro, and people know me for having an afro. And those are things that speak to my personal brand, right? But personal marketing would then be to say, how do I take those things and translate them out of me? So if people know me, I speak. I have a modeling background. I studied marketing. I studied mentorship. People know me a lot in the entrepreneurship space. Those are things that are associated with my brand. But when it comes to the marketing aspect, that's when people go, hey, I know you know about entrepreneurship. Could you coach me to start my own business? Or, hey, I know you know about branding. Can you come speak at this particular thing about branding, right? So it's the difference between the what it is and the doing. Yeah, Philip, I hope that helps, right? So like what it is and how people can engage with it is, you know, those two lists that you are in. And I think that's a really good list to make, because you could be something or you could add value in a certain way, but people actually don't know how to utilize it, or people don't know how to translate with it. So you need to be able to take that language from, guys, I'm really good at this. And not only am I good at it, this is actually something I can help you with, right? So I've got a cousin, for example, and she's fantastic at organizing. Like, she's a really good organizer. And people just go, oh, you're so good at organizing. Your room looks so clean. Your car is so neat and all of that stuff. But it's a skill, right? That she can actually come into someone's house and help you reorganize, right? But if she doesn't use that kind of language where people can translate that value to themselves, she can't convert it into a business, right? So being able to think about it in that way. So Jen, like, definitely is a very awkward thing to ask people what they think about you, right? And it's just like a little disclaimer, just say to friends, like, guys, listen, I'm not going through a breakdown. I'm perfectly fine. I'm just doing some research, right? Because I remember the first time I did this, and I actually did this for the first time in high school. And I just asked my classmates and a couple of other people. And one of my friends came up to me and she was like, are you okay? Why are you asking everybody what we think about you? Like, that's weird. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm doing research for it. I was watching some branding expert and they were like, you know, get feedback. And so that's what I'm doing. So it does feel weird. You definitely can be shy about it. But I mean, I think if you ask it in your own outgoing personality kind of way, people can just be like, oh, that's just Jen being Jen. And you can definitely get away with it. Cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I hope that has helped. I will see you all on social media. And to everybody who's going to watch this afterwards, thank you for taking the time to watch this great conversation. And I hope that it really does help you. And more than anything, that you've taken the effort to be here. Take the first step and implement something, even if it's just one thing. Just get that one thing done. And over time, you'll build the momentum. And once the momentum is going, don't stop. Thank you. Thanks, Anna.